Okay, welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know we love it when you send us the fascinating, the perplexing, and the just plain weird.
That's right.
And then we get to kind of pull it apart and see what makes it tick. And today, we're really diving into something quite gripping.
Yeah.
A personal account titled Novo1.txt
Interesting.
that one of you sent to us. And it details a very disturbing experience
Uh-oh.
during an RV camping trip.
Oh, okay.
So for you listening out there, our aim is to really kind of get under the skin of this story. We're going to trace the events, pinpoint the moments that are unsettling, and explore what might have been at play
Right.
in this person's experience. We know you love those aha moments, and we promise you'll get them.
Absolutely.
But we'll guide you through all the key details without getting bogged down. Right off the bat, you should know this isn't your typical campfire story. This is diving into the genuinely unusual,
Okay.
the potentially inexplicable,
Right.
and the quite frankly creepy.
Okay, I'm in.
So let's unpack this.
Yeah.
The account centers on a 34-year-old RV enthusiast named Logan.
Okay, Logan.
He's the proud owner of a 2013 Thor motor coach he
Nice.
calls Gator.
Oh, I like it already.
Yeah.
Gator, that's a good name. So Logan's reasons for this trip, I mean, relatable. He was seeking quiet and a little warmth after a year working in a warehouse. And he chose Oscar Scherer State Park
Oh, yeah.
in Sarasota, Florida. Now, this location, this is going to become significant as we dig deeper.
It really does. It really sets a specific atmosphere, right?
Yes.
The text paints a picture of pine flatwoods and murky creeks.
Oh, I see where this is going.
A friend of Logan's apparently described it as swampy wilderness,
Murky Creeks, swampy wilderness.
which I think already starts to set the stage a little bit,
Sure
right?
does.
Yeah. But before Logan even settles into Gator, he performs this little ritual. He places his deceased father's alligator tooth keychain
Ooh.
on the dashboard. It's described as this jagged fang on a leather strap, a gift from when he was 15. So, objects with personal meaning. You take them with you.
Yeah, for sure.
His father used to say, "The swamp keeps what it takes."
Oh.
And the keychain itself was believed to bite trouble back.
Okay, so this is like a protective talisman
Totally.
against the swamp. I like it. It's fascinating how these objects become, so important when we're in situations that are unknown.
Right. Like these little symbols
Yeah.
we take with us, and they help us feel safe.
Yeah.
So the first night arrives, and it's raining. Logan parks Gator near one of these creeks. And initially, there's this sense of peace.
Okay.
He's enjoying a beer, watching the rain on the palmettos, letting the sounds of the swamp kind of envelop him. But then things begin to feel just a little off.
Uh-oh.
The typical sounds you'd expect in a swamp,
Yeah.
the chorus of frogs, the buzzing of cicadas, they just vanish.
Oh, interesting.
There's this sudden, pervasive stillness, broken only by the rain and the murmur of the creek.
So it's not the sounds themselves that are creepy. It's the absence of what should be there.
Exactly.
That's unsettling.
It's that break from the natural rhythm that triggers that sense of unease, like something isn't right.
Exactly.
And then comes the first truly bizarre event. Logan hears his nickname, Lo, but it's described as his deceased father's voice.
Oh.
Rough, wet, seemingly originating from the creek.
Okay, that's spooky.
His father's been gone for 6 years. Can you imagine hearing that familiar voice in such an unexpected and unsettling way?
Yeah, that's very personal. That's not just like any voice. That's someone you know.
Exactly. And in such a specific place, too.
Yeah.
He tries to rationalize it.
Okay.
Just the sound of the rain playing tricks.
Right.
He even records the sound on his phone, muttering, "It's just the rain."
Right.
But when he listens back, the logical explanation completely unravels.
Uh-oh.
Instead of the sounds of rain, the recording captures low, clear as
Yeah.
day. But now, tangled in a deep, sloshing growl, like a voice dragged through the mire.
Oh, that image.
It's no longer just a comforting, familiar sound. It's something twisted, something corrupted, something other. And the strangeness continues to escalate.
Okay.
He checks to make sure all the locks on Gators are secure. Just a small detail, I think, that speaks volumes about his growing anxiety at this point.
Right.
And then he notices the alligator tooth keychain,
Yeah.
the one that he specifically placed on the dashboard.
Right.
It's now on the floor,
Yeah.
wedged in a crack. He hadn't touched it.
Okay, so someone's moving stuff around.
It defies any straightforward explanation.
Right.
It's like the keychain itself has been moved by some unseen force inside the RV, which then triggers another unsettling memory. the park attendant's casual warning about ghosts,
Oh, no.
and the advice not to camp too close to the creek.
Oh,
What he likely dismissed as local color
right,
now takes on a much darker, more personal significance.
right.
So he consults the park map. And there it is. An abandoned hunting camp from 1977, associated with lost souls who don't leave.
Okay, this is getting really creepy.
Someone has even scrawled that ominous phrase onto the map itself. So the introduction of local folklore and the history of this park just adds another layer of unease to everything.
Right.
It suggests that Logan's experience might not be an isolated incident.
I see, like there's a precedent.
Totally. There's this pre-existing sense of disquiet, fear associated with this location, especially around the creek.
Right.
That abandoned camp, it makes you think about the stories that places hold.
Absolutely.
Right. That night, sleep is obviously impossible. The rain continues to rock Gator, and he turns on his dad's old battery lantern, seeking maybe a small measure of comfort in a familiar object.
Sure.
But even that simple act leads to more terror.
Uh-oh.
The lantern flickers, and a raspy voice whispers, "You're not welcome." And this time, it's a different voice entirely.
Okay, so this isn't just like his dad.
Right. It's not just misinterpreting sounds.
Right.
It's something distinctly other,
Yeah.
something hostile.
Yeah, and not welcome. That definitely sounds hostile.
Yeah. And then the sounds outside intensify.
Okay.
A loud and thick splash, likened to a tail thrashing in the water.
So we're in alligator territory.
Right. But the events that follow hint at something far stranger and more menacing than any natural animal.
Oh, boy.
Gator's engine sputters and dies. The lights go out.
Oh, no.
His phone loses all signal.
He's trapped.
He's completely isolated, confined within this metal shell of the RV as the storm continues to rage around him.
Oh, that's scary.
His desperate cry of "leave me alone" is met only by the gurgling of the creek.
Oh, God.
Like the landscape itself is mocking his fear.
Right.
And then he checks the footage from his motion camera,
Yeah.
the one he'd set up hoping to capture glimpses of, local wildlife.
Okay.
But what he sees is anything but ordinary. There's this low, scaly shape crouched by the creek. Its eyes glint like oil slicks, steering directly towards Gator. Can you imagine seeing that on the footage?
I mean, that gives me the chills just hearing you describe it.
It's a visual confirmation of something distinctly unnatural, moving beyond just sounds and the unexplained movement of objects.
Right. It's not just his imagination anymore.
Exactly. It's something that he's actually captured on video, the description of the eyes. Glinting like oil slicks is really unsettling.
Yeah.
Suggestive of something not quite alive in any conventional sense.
Right. Right.
He's in utter desperation, so he tries his CB radio. Attempting to reach his brother, Nate.
Okay.
He manages a brief connection, but the signal is cut off by static, just as Nate seems to be offering help.
Oh, no.
That feeling of complete isolation.
Right. So close to help.
So close.
And then it's gone.
And then the knocking returns. 3 slow, deliberate thumps. Thump, thump, thump. His father's distinct fishing signal.
No way.
After hearing his father's voice earlier, this must have been so jarring for him.
Yeah.
Offering this fleeting false sense of comfort.
Right.
Right before the true horror reveals itself, he instinctively retreats back inside Gator. And in a moment of fear and maybe a subconscious yearning for that safety of childhood, he checks under the bunk, the place he used to hide as a kid.
Oh, I see.
And that's where he finds it. Low, crudely scratched into the floor. Wet and gritty, like it'd been clawed into the wood with swamp muck.
Oh, God, no.
It's a deeply personal violation.
It is.
The use of his intimate nickname, physically etched within his personal space, it just suggests this deliberate and malevolent intent.
It does.
Right. The detail of it being like wet and gritty, like swamp muck, directly links it to that menacing environment outside.
Right.
Like the swamp itself is reaching into the RV.
Right.
The knocking then turns into these violent raking scratches along Gator's sides.
Oh, gosh.
Much more aggressive, overtly threatening. And the alligator tooth keychain, clutched in his hand, begins to pulse with heat,
What?
almost as if it's reacting to the events unfolding.
Okay, this keychain,
Yeah.
this is weird.
It's like this object, imbued with the belief of offering protection, is somehow acknowledging or resonating with this entity.
It's like it's aware of what's happening.
It's like this tangible link to the horror. So Logan finally reaches a point where he can no longer just hide.
Right.
He grabs his flashlight, a machete, which, another tool with his history connected to his father.
Right.
He holds the keychain aloft and yells out into the darkness, "I'm not yours."
Oh.
It's this moment of defiance against this unseen terror.
Oh.
He steps out into the rain, and the figure is gone.
Okay.
But the evidence of its presence is undeniable. Deep claw marks gouge into the muddy creek bank, leading down into the water. And then, back inside Gator, the motion camera inexplicably plays again, unprompted, with that deep, slimy voice uttering the words, "You woke me up."
Okay, so this thing can talk.
It's conscious, aware of Logan's arrival,
Yeah.
and annoyed at being disturbed.
Oh, that is so creepy. So, like, Logan has woken up something that wanted to be left alone?
Exactly. And he remembers his father's stories.
Right.
About Oscar Scherer, about hunters who vanished without a trace, adding this disturbing historical context to the idea of disturbing something best left alone.
Right.
And then it turns violent.
Oh, no.
The figure slams against Gator's side with tremendous force, claws raking across the roof. And Logan catches his reflection in the keychain and sees something coiled and sinister lurking behind him inside the RV.
Oh, my God.
That feeling of being inside your safe space.
Yeah, but it's not safe.
But it's not safe anymore.
Yeah.
The lantern, which he'd already smashed,
Yeah.
flares to life, displaying the message, "You'll never run."
Oh, God.
Just a direct, unambiguous threat.
Right.
And then, as suddenly as it began, it stops. Dawn breaks. The rain stops. And incredibly, Gator's engine starts normally. He gets out of there as fast as he can.
Right.
But it doesn't just end there. He discovers swamp muck and broad, webbed claw prints inside Gator.
Oh, wow.
Physical evidence that something got inside the RV. And there's a final, unrecorded clip on his phone. A fleeting glimpse of a shadowy figure looming.
Right. And just this chilling hiss of love.
So it's focused on him.
It is.
This thing, whatever it is.
It's a final reminder of the entity's presence and its specific focus on him.
Yeah.
He even develops these strange, unsettling, algae-like scars on his arms,
Oh, what?
mirroring the marks he saw on the creek bank.
Oh.
Driven by this experience, he starts researching the
Okay.
history of Oscar Scherer, uncovering local tales of unexplained disappearances, reports of crawlers, strange names scratched into surfaces where water shouldn't be able to reach.
So it's like his encounter lines up with these existing local legends?
Totally. Suggests a pattern, a history of unusual events that predates him.
Yeah.
And then he talks to his brother, Nate,
Okay.
who confirms that his CB radio was inexplicably dead that night.
Wow.
And Nate mentions his own unsettling experience near Oscar Scherer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Lending credence to Logan's account.
Yeah.
But even back home, far from the swamp, the strangeness persists.
Oh, no. The alligator tooth keychain occasionally drips with an unknown liquid.
Oh, God.
The machete blade is chipped. And Logan, understandably, is traumatized.
Right.
He finds a reed placed under his door, bearing the scratched nickname Lo.
Oh, no.
He and Nate burn it in an attempt to kind of end the phenomenon. But even that symbolic act doesn't bring an end to it.
Okay.
Because with the return of the rain, he hears it again through the walls of his home. Low, low, and wet.
Oh.
As if it's still out there, still hunting him. It's just this profoundly unsettling way to end this account.
It really is. So the disembodied voice, the physical manifestations, the intelligence, the lasting impact, this is a seriously messed up experience.
It really is. It's one individual's account, right?
Yeah.
A subjective experience.
Right.
But the detail and the consistent thread of these unsettling events, I don't know, it just makes for a really disturbing story.
Yeah.
And I think what's really interesting about it is that it leaves us with so many questions. Could this be a purely psychological phenomenon triggered by the isolation, the atmosphere of the swamp? Could it be local legends and folklore taking root in his mind?
Right.
You know, fueled by suggestion, fueled by stress.
Right.
Or could it be something else entirely, something truly unexplainable lurking in those shadowy depths of Oscar Scherer State Park?
Yeah, it really makes you wonder.
So I'm curious, what are your thoughts? What possible explanations could there be?
You know, I don't know. I think it raises those really profound questions.
Yeah.
About the power of place, the influence of folklore, and those shared cultural narratives, and then just how our minds interpret and shape these ambiguous or frightening experiences.
Yeah.
Sometimes the most unsettling mysteries. They're the ones that resist easy categorization and haunt us long after the encounter's over.
It definitely gives you something to ponder, doesn't it? Now, If you enjoyed this deep dive into Logan's encounter, consider subscribing to The Deep Dive wherever you happen to be listening to us. And if you have any thoughts or even similar experiences, please leave a comment and let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. It's always great to see how far these explorations into the unknown are reaching. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Thanks for listening.
All right, so you're here, which means you're probably the kind of person who wants to dive right in, right? Get to the good stuff, those aha moments, without wading through a ton of fluff.
Exactly. No time wasted. And today we've got something really unique, a personal account that's honestly pretty unsettling. It's about a solo RV trip to Jonathan Dickinson State Park in Florida.
You know, when I first read this one, it really stuck with me.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those stories that gets under your skin a little bit.
It's about this person named Harper.
And their experience during this, well, it was supposed to be a relaxing camping trip, getting away from it all. But things took a bit of a dark turn.
And that's putting it lightly, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So what we have is Harper's firsthand account, this detailed narrative of what they went through. It's a story that blends personal experience with, well, maybe something a little bit more, something we need to unpack a bit.
So what are we going to be looking at today? What's the mission for this deep dive?
Our goal is to kind of dissect these strange occurrences that Harper describes, to really try to understand them, maybe look at them from different angles, and see if we can pull out some bigger questions, some insights that you can take away from this whole experience, because there's a lot to unpack here.
Definitely. And the setting is important too, right? I mean, Jonathan Dickinson State Park, it's known for those amazing pine forests, those scrublands, the Loxahatchee River running right through it. It's a place that definitely has an atmosphere, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. It's got its own character. And it's a pretty popular spot for RVers, which is what Harper was doing.
Yeah, they actually had this RV named Ranger, which is pretty cool.
It fits the vibe, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally. So Harper's in their 30s, a teacher, and they're looking for a break. They're burnt out, need some time to recharge. That's what this trip was supposed to be.
Yeah, a chance to reconnect with nature, find some peace and quiet. Which at first they did, everything seemed tranquil. But there's this family history element that kind of hangs over the whole story, which I think you should keep in mind.
What do you mean?
Harper's mom used to always say this thing, the river holds grudges. And it's almost like a warning, I guess, that kind of echoes throughout Harper's experience. And there's this river stone, a smooth gray one, that Harper's mom gave them when they were just 14, with the words, "It'll weigh you steady, Harp." It's like a little anchor,
Wow, that's pretty powerful. And Harper's mom, she's not around anymore, right?
No, she passed away 5 years before this trip.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that her presence, her words, those memories, they're all kind of swirling around in Harper's head as they're out there alone in the park.
And then things start to happen. The first real unsettling moment comes during a rainstorm. It's Florida, so those can be pretty intense.
Yeah, and Harper is just chilling in the riverbank, heating up some ramen, listening to the rain, when suddenly they hear this soft, kind of muddy whisper of their nickname, Harp. And what's really creepy is that it sounds exactly like their mom's voice. I mean, imagine that, hearing the voice of someone you've lost coming from, well, nowhere, basically.
Yeah, that would definitely send shivers down my spine.
It's a visceral thing, And Harper, they even drop their food. That's how startled they are. And then, just to make things even creepier, the whisper happens again. Only this time, it's much closer to the water's edge.
That's a whole other level of creepy. It's
Right.
like whatever's doing it is moving closer.
Exactly. And you have to remember that Harper, they've always had this kind of fear of the river at night, this uneasiness about something unseen lurking in the dark. So this whisper, especially sounding like their mom, it really plays on their deepest fears,
Makes sense. And Harper's first thought is that it's just the wind, right? Or the rain, something natural making those sounds. I mean, wouldn't we all think that?
Absolutely. You try to rationalize it. But Harper, they actually try to record the sounds on their phone, just to prove to themselves that it's nothing, that there's a logical explanation.
But that's when it gets even weirder, right?
Oh, yeah. When Harper plays back the recording, the whisper's there, clear as day, Harp. But it's mixed with this weird, low, gurgling rasp, like a voice that's, well, it's like a voice choked with river silt. That's how Harper describes it.
That's not something the wind would make.
No, definitely not. And that detail, the gurgling, it adds this really unnatural element to it, It takes it from being a maybe kind of spooky voice to something a lot more disturbing.
Okay, so At this point, how is Harper reacting to all of this? I mean, they must be freaking out a little, right?
Well, yeah, they're definitely on edge. Their first reaction is to check all the locks on Ranger, the RV, make sure everything's secure. But then there's another weird thing that happens.
What's that?
That river stone, the one Harper's mom gave them, the one they had on the dashboard, it's suddenly on the floor. Just moved. No explanation.
Unexplained movement. That's classic haunting stuff right there.
Right, and it's those little things, those illogical occurrences that really get under your skin. They make you question what's real, what's not.
Okay, now I'm starting to get creeped out myself.
Yeah, it's pretty unsettling. And then Harper remembers something that the park ranger said during check-in. It was just a casual comment at the time, but now it takes on a whole new meaning.
What did the ranger say?
Jonathan Dickinson's got shadows. Don't camp too close to the river. Harper just brushed it off as like a folksy thing, you know? But now, with all these weird things happening, it's like maybe the ranger knew something, you know?
Maybe there's more to those local legends, right?
Right.
More to the stories about the river.
Exactly. And Harper, they actually look at the park map, and guess what they find? There's this abandoned fishing shack marked near the river dating back to 1982.
Oh, that's not good.
And there's a handwritten note on the map next to the shack. It talks about unexplained vanishings and the phrase, "they don't forget." Chillin' stuff, man.
They don't forget, huh? That's ominous. Okay, so we've got weird whispers, a moving rock, creepy warnings from the ranger, and a history of disappearances.
Yeah.
The tension is definitely ratcheting up.
Oh, yeah, it's getting intense. That night, Harper's trying to sleep, but the rain's still coming down, and they're just on edge, you know?
Yeah.
So they turn on their mom's old wind-up radio. It's just static, but it's something familiar, comforting, you know?
It's like a little piece of home. Right. Something to ground them.
Exactly. But even that doesn't last. The static starts to warp and distort, and then a voice cuts through. Clear as can be, it says, "You're mine now."
Okay. That's just not right. A voice on a wind-up radio. That's messing with my head.
Right. And it's like whatever's out there, it's targeting Harper specifically now. It's not just random whispers anymore.
And things don't stop there, do they?
No, they definitely escalate. A ramen pot clatters inside Ranger, seemingly on its own. And then there's this heavy, slow splash outside, like something large just moved in the water.
I'd be losing it at this point. I mean, how do you even react to something like that?
You're trapped, you know. And Harper tries to escape. They try to start the RV, but the engine's dead, the lights go out, and their phone, which had some battery, it drains instantly. No signal.
The technology failing, that's like a classic horror movie trope. It just amps up the helplessness.
Totally. It's like you're completely cut off at the mercy of whatever's out there. And then remember that motion light Harper set up outside?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Well, they check the feed on their phone, and they see it. A figure standing on the riverbank in the dim light.
Oh, no.
It's described as hunched over, dripping wet, with these eyes that glint like wet moss, and it's staring right at the RV.
That's a nightmare come to life right there.
Yeah, it goes from these vague sounds and feelings to an actual visual presence. Whatever's tormenting Harper, it's real, it's there.
So what does Harper do? They can't drive away, their phone's dead, they're stuck.
They try to call their friend Ellie on a CB radio, just hoping to get a message out. But the call cuts out almost immediately, right after Ellie says she'll call the park rangers. And then the knocking starts.
Oh, no.
3 soft taps. And Harper instantly recognizes it. It's their mom's old signal, the one she used to use all the time.
You've got to be kidding me. It's like something out of the ghost story. Mimicking a loved one's signal. That's just cruel.
It is. It's like whatever's out there is playing with Harper's emotions, using their memories against them.
And then they see a shape, right? By the
Yep.
water.
Yeah, a dark, still shape, just standing there. And then Harper finds something inside the RV. The word harp scratched into the underside of the table. It's wet, slimy, like it was just done.
It's like it's taunting them.
Exactly. And the knocking gets louder, more violent. The whole RV is shaking. Harper grabs that river stone, their mom's stone, and just holds on to it.
It's like a desperate attempted comfort, a connection to someone they've lost.
It's all they have left, you know. And then Harper does something really unexpected. They decide to confront whatever's out there.
Would they go outside?
Yeah. They grab a flashlight, a tire iron, and step out into the rain, and they yell, "I'm not yours!" Just this defiant scream into the darkness.
Wow, that's pretty brave.
It is. It's like a sudden shift from fear to, well, almost anger, you know? Taking back control. The weird thing is, the knocking stops. Silence.
So what do they see when they go outside?
They find these huge gouges in the mud on the riverbank with what look like claw marks trailing into the water. And then, for a split second, they see something long and dark break the surface of the river. It disappears just as quickly, but it's there.
So it's not just Harper's imagination, there's actual physical evidence now.
Right. And then back inside Ranger, that message on the phone reappears. You called me here, but this time it's in a voice. Deep, watery, like you'd imagine something from the river would sound.
It's like it's confirming those old stories, those warnings about the river.
It's like the river itself is responding to Harper, and it doesn't stop there. The figure comes back, attacks the RV, clawing at the side, making these guttural, almost animalistic wails.
Oh, God, that's terrifying.
And then Harper catches their reflection in that river stone. But it's not just them. There's another figure crouching right there in the RV, reflected in the stone.
Okay, now we're getting into some seriously creepy territory. It's like whatever it is, it's inside the RV too, not just outside.
It's everywhere. And then the radio, the wind-up radio, it crackles to life even though it's not wound up, and a voice says, "You'll never leave." And then the radio just dies, completely destroyed.
That's a pretty clear threat.
It is, and it's like this final act of dominance, cutting off any hope of communication. But then, just as suddenly, it's over. Dawn breaks, the rain stops, and Ranger starts right up.
So what happens next? Does Harper just drive away and never look back?
Pretty much. But the ordeal isn't over. Back home in Miami, they find traces of the river, silt, and those webbed claw prints inside Ranger. And then there's this final phone clip recorded during the night that Harper doesn't remember recording.
What's on it?
It's this hissing voice whispering "Harp" as a shadow seems to bend over them. And later, Harper finds these muddy scars on their wrists like they were grabbed or scratched.
It's like something followed them home from the park.
It's like a piece of that experience is still with them, even though they're miles away.
So what does Harper do? Do they just try to forget about it all?
No, they start digging into the history of the park, looking for answers. And they find these local whispers, online forums, talking about a camper who vanished in 1982 near that abandoned fishing shack, leaving behind strange carvings, they say.
And there are other stories, right? About voices and stuff.
Yeah, people talk about these disembodied callers by the river, unexplained carvings found in places where the water couldn't have reached.
Okay, so maybe it's not just Harper. Maybe there's something really going on in that park.
Maybe. And then Harper's friend Ellie, she remembers this weird experience she had on a kayak trip in the same area. She heard her name called from the reeds, and her phone died for no reason that night.
That's a pretty big coincidence.
It is. It kind of validates Harper's experience, Suggests that maybe there's something weird about that specific spot on the river.
So what's the lasting impact of all this? How has this affected Harper?
Well, they're definitely not the same. They've got this fear of running water now, sleep with the lights on, and then, get this, they find a mangrove leaf under their door with Harp scratched on it.
No way. It's like it followed them back to Miami.
Right. And then the thing that finally prompted them to share their story, the thing that brought us here today, is that they heard that whisper again. Harp. That same watery whisper through the wall of their apartment during a rainstorm.
That's seriously messed up.
It's like whatever happened in that park, it's not over. It might have followed Harper home.
This whole story, it's so unsettling. We've been through a lot. The family history, the warnings about the river, the disappearances, the physical evidence, the voices, the messages, the claw marks, the scars. It's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
And it all comes down to Harper's word, their experience.
Yeah, and we've got to consider everything. It makes you think, right? What's the explanation here? Could this be some kind of manifestation of grief? Harper's fear of the river, their mom's warnings, all that stuff mixing together in their head after being alone in the wilderness for so long?
It's possible. But then there's all the physical stuff, the claw marks, the silt, the phone recordings. It's hard to explain all that away as just psychological.
Right, so could it be that there's something real in that park? Something connected to the river? Something that maybe latched on to Harper somehow? Something ancient, maybe? Something we just don't understand?
It's definitely a possibility. And I think that's what makes this whole story so fascinating, so disturbing. It makes you question what you believe, what's possible.
Exactly. And it makes you think about those old stories, those local legends. Maybe they're not just stories, Maybe there's some truth to them.
It definitely makes you think twice about camping by a river. So what do you think? What's your take on all this?
I'd love to hear what you guys think. Leave a comment, send us a message, let's discuss this. Did Harper encounter something supernatural, or was it all in their head? It's a question that really makes you think about the power of place, the stories we inherit, and the mysteries that still lurk out there in the world.
for sure. And I think this story reminds us of something important. We might think we're in control, you know? But sometimes there are forces out there, things we don't understand that can reach out and touch our lives in ways we never expected.
Exactly. And it's a reminder that sometimes the most unsettling stories are the ones that are true.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a wild ride. And until next time, stay curious, but maybe stay away from those creepy rivers.
And keep those lights on at night, just in case. Okay, so have you ever read one of those stories and it like stays with you?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is one of those for me, reading through Quinn's account of this RV trip
Yeah.
to St. George Island State Park. And it's interesting, right? Because it's not a news story.
Right.
And it's not like some campfire tale. It's like a firsthand account
Right.
of what this person experienced. And they call these notes Novo1.txt.
Okay.
And right away, you're kind of hit with this family saying that Quinn mentions the Gulf Whispers secrets.
Oh, wow.
And you know, it's like what secrets are being whispered out there in those wild open spaces.
Yeah, I mean, just that phrase, the Gulf Whispers secrets, like right away you get this feeling that there's something almost beyond our understanding.
Right.
And then, Quinn has this deep connection with their RV, they call it Drift.
Right.
And it's almost like their one safe space, their anchor in the world becomes vulnerable.
Yes.
In this isolated setting. So you really feel that shift in security
Right.
as the story unfolds.
Yes, exactly. And Drift is more than just transportation for Quinn.
Right.
I mean, they call it their ride on the tides, so it's like this refuge,
Yeah.
this familiar space. And, even the location they chose, St. George Island State Park.
Right.
It's on Florida's Forgotten Coast, which is near Apalachicola, and that seems deliberate. They're seeking out remoteness, they're seeking solitude to try and find peace.
Oh, sure.
Because they're dealing with a struggling business.
Makes sense.
So you have someone who is already feeling kind of exposed, reaching for that quiet of nature.
Right.
And even that phrase, Forgotten Coast, it makes you think, is it a place where maybe the past lingers a little more strongly?
Yeah. It's like those forgotten places have these deeper stories that we don't always know about.
Yeah, and Quinn's initial descriptions really paint a picture of this desire for peace and tranquility.
Totally.
The rain, the sea oats, even sketching, right?
Yeah.
Like just trying to connect with the landscape and find some calm.
It's like grounding themselves.
Right, exactly. And then there's this driftwood carving
Right.
that Quinn's grandmother had made, and it's this little fish.
Oh, wow.
But it has this powerful message. It'll swim you home, Quinny.
Wow.
And initially, it seems like a token of comfort, of love, but considering what happens later,
Right.
you have to wonder if there's a deeper significance there, almost like this protective element that's put to the test.
Right. Like, is it more than just a sweet gesture?
Right. And it's that initial peacefulness that really makes that first sign of something being wrong so unsettling. So there's this faint hum coming from the shore, and then Quinn hears their nickname Quinny whispered.
Oh, no.
And not just any voice, it sounds like their deceased grandmother's voice.
Oh, wow.
And the detail that really gets me is that the pencil snaps in Quinn's hand.
Oh, my God.
And it's just the sudden physical reaction to this shock and fear. You can almost feel that adrenaline.
Yeah.
And then it happens again. Quinny, closer this time, like something is moving through the water toward them.
That's scary.
So what's interesting here is that Quinn's fear is rooted in a childhood experience.
Okay.
They've always been afraid of the Gulf at night. Their grandmother used to tease them about it. And so there's this contrast, right, between this childhood shyness and this very real dread
That's interesting.
and reaching for their phone to record.
Right.
That's just what we do now, right?
Yeah, of course.
When we experience something strange, we want to try and document it.
You want that proof.
Right.
Yeah.
But the recording offers no explanation instead of, rain and breathing.
Yeah.
Quinny again. But there's this low, watery growl underneath.
Oh, that's creepy.
And it just sounds unnatural, ancient, and potentially threatening. And of course, Quinn's first reaction is to make sure the RV is locked up tight.
Right, like your safe space suddenly feels not so safe anymore.
Exactly. And then things start happening inside Drift.
So,
That driftwood carving, it's moved from the dashboard.
Why?
And Quinn is adamant that they didn't touch it.
Wow.
It might seem minor, but it's like this direct violation of their personal space within the supposed safety of the RV.
Right.
And then Quinn remembers this warning that the gatekeepers gave them about voices and not camping too close to the shore. And it's like something that probably just seemed like, quirky local color at the time suddenly feels very ominous.
Right. It all starts to connect in a way that you don't want it to.
Right. And then there's that detail on the map, the abandoned lighthouse keeper's hut.
Okay.
And it's marked with strange calls, and they don't fade.
Oh, gosh.
And it's like these events have a history, this persistence that's really unsettling. It's like the land itself is holding on to these occurrences.
Not letting go.
So we have this growing sense of unease. But let's talk about how things escalate as night falls for Quinn.
Okay, so things go from bad to worse pretty quickly.
Yes.
The rain is coming down even harder.
Right.
Rocking drift back and forth. And then this wind-up lantern.
Right.
It probably has some sentimental value to Quinn.
Right. Maybe tied to their grandmother.
Yeah, and it starts hissing and says, "You're not alone."
Oh, my God.
It's like a direct confirmation of their fears from an inanimate object.
Right.
And then the sketchbook moves on its own.
Uh-huh.
There's this splashing sound right outside the RV.
Yeah.
Like whatever it is getting closer.
It's like their world is shrinking.
Holy.
Right. Their safe haven is turning against them.
And then Drift starts to fail the engine sputters and dies, leaving them in darkness.
Yeah, and the phone signal drops too, like instantly.
It's like whatever is happening is actively isolating them.
Right.
Cutting off any way to get help or escape.
And Quinn shouts out into the darkness, "Leave me."
Oh, gosh.
And the only response is this like roar from the Gulf.
It's like a confrontation with something vast and powerful.
Right. And then the motion light catches this figure, lean and slick with sea glass eyes.
Oh, my God, that's creepy.
And it's staring at Drift.
So it's not just in their head.
Right. The sphere isn't just their imagination. There's actually something out there.
Yeah.
And then they try to reach their brother Finn on the CB radio.
Okay.
But all they get is static.
And later on, Finn tells them his CB was dead that night.
Yeah.
So was it just a malfunction or was something interfering with their communication?
It makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Right. How far does this go?
Totally.
And then there's knocking 3 quick taps.
Oh, no.
Their grandmother's signal.
That's so creepy.
Like this personal, intimate thing is now twisted into something menacing.
Yeah.
There's a shape in the rain. Quinn pulls the blinds shut. And then they find Quinny scratched under the bunk.
Oh, my.
Damp and sandy, like it was clawed there with a wet hand.
That is so disturbing.
So their name is scratched in a place that should feel safe.
Right. Exactly.
And then the scratching starts again raking along the sides of Drift.
So it's like this escalating aggression,
Right.
pushing harder and harder.
And Quinn grabs that driftwood carving, that symbol of their grandmother's protection.
Okay. Yeah.
But what's important here is that Quinn fights back,
Okay.
right? They grab a crowbar and a flashlight.
Yeah.
They're still holding that carving, and they shout, "I'm not yours!"
Wow.
And the scratching stops.
So it's reacting to them.
But to their defiance.
That's wild.
And they go outside briefly,
Okay.
and they see these claw marks on the dune leading down to the water, and they see something long and dark in the waves.
Oh, my.
So there's confirmation, right? There's something physical out there.
Yeah, it's not a ghost or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
this is a creature.
Yeah. And they run back to Drift and lock the door, and then the motion light turns on by itself, and it says, "You brought me back,"
Oh, God.
in this deep title voice.
That's so creepy.
And it's like there's a connection.
right, like a reason it's there.
Right. And it makes me think of those stories Quinn's grandmother told.
Oh, yeah, about the fisherman
Yeah, the fisherman who heard whispers and then vanished.
and her unease, even when she was smiling.
Right. It's like the family knew about these stories, these encounters.
Right, they had some awareness.
And the attacks on Drift get worse.
Yeah.
Slamming, buckling metal, the claws on the roof, this horrible wail. But I think the worst part is when Quinn sees a reflection in the carving
Yeah.
of a figure standing behind them inside Drift.
Oh, my God, no.
So the threat is inside now.
Oh, that's terrifying.
And the lantern flares up even though it wasn't cranked.
Go away.
And it hisses, "You'll never hide." And Quinn smashes it.
Oh.
Quinn escapes at dawn, but there's still evidence in Drift.
What kind of evidence?
Wet sand, those thin webbed claw prints circling the bunk.
Oh, God.
And there's a phone clip with just a shadow and a growl that says, "Quinny." And then there are these faint, salty scars on Quinn's arms.
Oh my gosh.
So these events actually happen.
Right, they weren't imagining it.
Right, and Quinn researches St. George Island, and they find all these stories, a camper vanishing near that hut in 85. The local legends of whisperers living in the Gulf, strange names scratched in places the tide can't reach.
So there's this history of strange things happening.
Yes, and Finn confirms that his CB really was dead that night.
Wow. So it's like a pattern,
Right.
not random.
And the aftermath is really disturbing, too.
Yeah.
The driftwood carving is dripping, even though it was dry.
What?
There's a notch in the crowbar.
Oh, wow.
Quinn is terrified of the ocean now.
Yeah, bet.
And then they find a seashell with Quinny scratched on the inside.
Oh, God, no.
Finn freaks out when he sees it.
Really?
Yeah, and he says he's heard his name called from the surf before.
So it's not just Quinn.
Right, it's
Yeah.
like there's something about their family.
That's creepy.
Quinn burns the shell,
Okay.
trying to break the connection.
Yeah.
But then the rain starts again, and there's that whisper, Quinny, low and tidal.
Oh, no.
So whatever Quinn encountered, it's still out there.
It didn't go away.
It knows Quinn.
That's terrifying.
So after hearing all that, what do you think?
I don't know. It's really creepy.
What are these whispers?
Yeah. What could they be?
What do they want with Quinn?
It really makes you think about those secrets that are out there.
Yeah, in those wild places.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, this is a good one.
We'll be back next week with another deep dive.
Can't wait.
Until then, stay curious.
And stay safe out there.
Yeah.
Okay, see ya.
Bye. Okay, so we've gotten a lot of really interesting submissions lately, but this one, Sage's account called Novo1.txt, it's really stuck with us.
Yeah, it's more than just a creepy camping story, right? It's like it makes you question what's real.
Exactly, and that's what we're going to try and unpack in this deep dive.
Yeah, we're not going to try and like solve the mystery or anything.
Uh-huh.
We're just going to look at what happened to Sage at Blue Springs State Park.
Yeah.
You know, and see what we can learn from it based on just her account.
Absolutely. So first, let's talk about Sage a bit. She's 31 years old, and she loves to travel in her RV, a 2012 Coachman Freelander named Echo.
Oh, that's cute.
I know, right? And she's a freelancer, so these trips are her way of getting away from it all, you know, finding some peace and quiet.
Yeah, I get that.
And there's this detail that really stood out to me. Before every trip, she puts her late Uncle Cal's compass on the dashboard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's this old brass compass, all scratched up from his fishing days. When she was a kid, he'd always tell her, "It'll point you, right, Saggy?"
It's like a little ritual.
It is. It's really sweet, but also it becomes kind of eerie later on.
I can see that.
Okay, so Blue Springs State Park. It's like the picture of serenity, you know? Clear springs, oak trees, RV sites by the St. Johns River, all surrounded by this wild, swampy wilderness.
Yeah, it sounds idyllic.
It does, and that's what makes what happened to Sage so unsettling, you know? This huge contrast between the peace she was looking for and what she actually found.
Definitely. So what happened when she got there?
So she gets there, it starts raining, this like sticky patter on the roof of Echo, and at first it's all peaceful. You know, she's making soup, listening to the rain in the trees and the river flowing.
Sounds nice.
It does. But then things start to feel off. Like she mentions how quiet it is, no crickets, no fish splashing.
Well,
Just the rain and this low hum coming from the water.
that's interesting. Like a kind of silence that's almost too quiet.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a warning sign, you know? Something's not right.
Makes you think, right? Like when you're in nature and it suddenly goes silent, it's like your senses are on high alert.
Totally. And then as she's writing in her journal, she hears someone whisper her nickname is Saggy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and it sounds exactly like her Uncle Cal, who died 9 years ago.
Whoa. Okay, that's creepy.
Right, like that's got to be the turning point, you know? The moment when things go from normal to something else entirely.
Yeah, like a crack in reality or something.
Totally, and it's so personal too, right? Her childhood nickname in her dead uncle's voice. And she even mentions how she was always scared of the springs as a kid, something her uncle used to tease her about.
Oh, wow. So it's like her deepest fears are being brought to life.
It is, and she tries to rationalize it, you know? She even records herself whispering, "It's just the river." But when she plays it back there, it is Saggy, clear as day, but mixed with this weird gurgling hum, like the voice is coming from the water itself.
Ugh, that's so unsettling.
It is. It's like the water is talking to her, using the voice of someone she loved.
Yeah, the gurgling almost like it's trapped in there, you know, struggling to get out.
So back inside Echo, she checks all the locks, makes sure everything is secure, and then she sees her uncle's compass, the one from the dashboard, spinning on the floor.
Oh, wow. That's freaky. Like something is messing with her.
Right, and she's sure she didn't touch it. It's like this unseen force is starting to interact with her surroundings.
Yeah, a compass is supposed to point you in the right direction, you know,
Yeah.
give you a sense of stability, but this is doing the opposite.
Absolutely. It's like all the rules she knows are breaking down.
Right.
Then there's this seemingly random comment from the park volunteer. He says, Blue Springs got echoes. Don't camp too close to the water.
That's weird.
It is. Like, at first, it just sounds like advice you know about acoustics. But after everything that's happened, it's like a warning.
Right, like he knows something.
And later, she finds this abandoned canoe dock on her park map, marked from 1979 after Lost Voices.
Lost voices.
Yeah, and someone scrawled underneath, they don't drift away.
Okay, that's creepy.
Yeah.
It's like this place has a history of strange things happening.
It does. And it's like Sage walked right into it without knowing.
So what happened next? Did she try to leave?
Yeah, she couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
You know, the rain kept drumming on the roof of Echo, and then things got even weirder. Her uncle's old wind-up flashlight started flickering, and then it said, "You're not safe."
No way. The flashlight talked.
It sounded like it, and then there was a huge splash outside, like something big just jumped into the water near Echo.
Oh, God. So it's like whatever's out there is getting closer and closer.
It is, and it's not just sounds anymore, right? It's like objects are coming to life and they're threatening her.
That's terrifying.
It is. So she tries to get out of their startup Echo, but the engine dies. The lights go out, her phone loses signal and battery all at once.
Oh, no. She's tracked.
She is completely cut off and alone in the storm. She screams out into the night, but all she hears is that creepy gurgle from the river.
It's like something is playing with her, you know? Cutting her off from the outside world.
And then the motion light outside flickers on and she sees it on her phone feed. A figure standing on the riverbank, hunched over, all wet, with these eyes that are just staring right at Echo.
Oh, God. It's like something out of a nightmare.
It is. And she tries to call her cousin Tara on the CB radio, but it's just static.
She's completely alone.
She is. Then she hears it 3 slow knocks.
What was that?
It was her Uncle Cal's signal, like how he used to knock on her door.
Oh, my God. That's so messed up. It's like it's using her memories against her.
I know. And then she sees this shape pressed against the window outside, just standing there in the rain, completely still.
Okay, I'm getting chills.
And it gets worse. She checks under her bunk, you know, like where she used to hide as a kid. And her nickname, Saggy, is scratched into the wood.
Scratched? Like with what?
It looked like it was done with a wet hand, covered in this mossy stuff.
That's like whatever's out there knows her.
And then the scratching starts on the outside of Echo like something is trying to get in.
This is insane. It's like a horror movie.
I know, but this is what Sage lived through. So she does the bravest thing imaginable. She grabs her uncle's flashlight and a machete and screams out into the storm, "I'm not yours!"
Well, seriously.
Yeah, and everything goes silent.
Oh, that's even creepier.
I know, right? Like it's acknowledging her.
Yeah.
So she steps outside into the darkness.
Armed with a machete. That's so brave.
It is. She had to do something right. So outside, she finds these huge claw marks raked through the mud on the riverbank leading right into the water.
Claw marks, like animal claws.
They looked like it.
Yeah.
And she sees something long and dark moving just beneath the surface of the river.
Ugh, that's so creepy. It's like it was waiting for her.
When she goes back inside, Echo, the motion light feed on her phone, turns on by itself, and a voice, this deep, watery voice, says, "You woke me up."
Just like it's taunting her.
It is. And all those stories her Uncle Cal used to tell her about Blue Spring, about swimmers hearing their names and then disappearing, they come rushing back to her.
Oh, man. This is getting really bad.
It does. And then the figure comes back, attacks Echo. She swings a machete wildly, but all she hears is claws scraping on the roof and this horrible, inhuman wail.
It's like it's trying to break in.
It was. Then she sees something in the reflection of her compass, something hunched and shadowy standing behind her inside Echo.
No way. That's terrifying.
She spins around, but there's nothing there. But it planted this seed of fear, you know?
Like the feeling that you're being watched even when you can't see anything.
Exactly. And then the flashlight, the one she didn't wind up, flares to life, shines right in her face and says, "You'll never breathe."
Oh, my God.
I know. She just smashed it in panic.
I don't blame her.
She manages to escape in the early morning mist, you know, just as the sun is coming up. It's like a miracle she got out of there.
It is. But it's not over.
Yeah.
Right? Like she couldn't just leave it all behind.
Right. There was river mud and these webbed claw prints all over the carpet in Echo circling her bunk. And then she finds a recording on her phone that she doesn't remember making. It's this shadowy figure hissing "Saggy" right over her as she was writing in the dark.
That's terrifying. It's like it was right there with her, and she didn't even know it.
And there's more. She has these scars on her neck, faint like algae that just appeared out of nowhere.
Physical evidence.
Wow.
It makes you wonder if this was all in her head or something really touched her.
Right. So she starts researching Blue Spring and finds all these stories. A camper vanished in 1979. Near that abandoned canoe dock, people have found strange carvings in the trees. And there are all these local legends about echoes and weird things happening.
So it's not just her. It's like this place has a dark history.
Exactly. And when she finally gets a hold of her cousin Tara, she finds out that the CB radio was down that night and that Tara had her own experience at Blue Spring years ago. She heard someone call her name.
It's like this pattern
Yeah.
with these echoes drawing people in.
Sage is still dealing with the trauma. She flinches at running water, can't sleep without a fan on. And then the creepiest thing happens. She finds a river reed with Seiji scratched on it under her door back at home.
No way. It followed her home.
It seems like it. And Tara freaks out when she sees it. She finally admits that something happened to her at Blue Spring, too.
So this thing, whatever it is, it might not be stuck at Blue Spring. It might be able to follow people.
It's a terrifying thought.
It is.
And then during a recent rainstorm, Sage hears it again. Seigi whispered through her wall.
Oh my God. It's like it's never going to leave her alone.
So we're left with this question. What do we make of places like Blue Spring where the past seems to bleed into the present, where voices linger? And what does it tell us about the line between what's real and what haunts us?
It makes you wonder what's lurking out there in the shadows, right?
It does. It makes you think twice about that peaceful retreat into nature.
Welcome in, everyone. We're really diving deep today into something pretty unsettling.
Yeah, this one's going to stay with you.
We're looking at some, firsthand accounts, really, that take us right into the heart of Everglades National Park.
Right into it.
Our goal today is to try and understand these strange events that happened to this woman named Jude and see if we can sort of figure out what, if anything, might be going on beneath the surface.
Exactly. We're going to try to unpack this story of Jude, who's 32 years old and heads down to the Everglades in her RV, which I love this, she calls Marsh.
Marsh, yeah.
But she's got this deep connection to the Everglades, going all the way back to her grandfather. And it sounds like he gave her some pretty stark warnings about the place.
Yeah, that connection to her grandfather is really key here, right from the start. I mean, she talks about him a lot. You can tell he instilled in her this love for the Everglades, but also, like, a huge amount of respect for it. Maybe even bordering on fear.
Like almost a primal kind of fear, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And he had this saying, he always said, the Glades don't forgive. And there's this image that keeps coming up of his old fishing hook.
Oh, yeah.
It's this rusted barb on a worn leather thong. He gave it to her when she was a kid, and he told her, he said, "It'll snag you back, Judy." That nickname, Judy, that's something to keep in mind, as we go through this.
Foreshadowing, maybe?
Foreshadowing, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the hook itself, right?
Yeah.
Symbolizing that tie to the Everglades, to her past.
I think that hook, it's more than just an object. It's symbolic of this unbreakable connection she has to the Glades. And also, maybe it's like a warning, right? Against underestimating the power of the Everglades or venturing too far in.
Oh, for sure. And she takes it pretty literally. When she gets to the Flamingo Campground in Everglades National Park, it's right there on the dashboard of Marsh, her RV.
Flamingo Campground, yeah.
Yeah, she's there, trying to find some peace and quiet. She had a rough year, so she's just looking to escape in Marsh. Parks it right at the edge of the bay.
Seek solace in the Glades, huh?
Yeah, but the atmosphere she describes when she gets there,
Yeah.
it's not exactly peaceful, right? It's got this eerie calm to it, like this unsettling contrast. Rain is coming down steadily, but it's the silence that gets to her.
The silence.
Yeah, she keeps saying how there's none of the usual swamp sounds, no birds, no rustling in the mangroves, nothing. Just the rain and this kind of soft gurgling of the water. It just makes her feel uneasy right away. Like, what do you think? What does that kind of silence do to your senses when you expect noise and there's just nothing?
I think it can really mess with you, to be honest. We're kind of conditioned to expect a certain level of background noise, especially in nature. And when that's missing, it creates this void. It's almost like the whole natural world is holding its breath, and it just makes you nervous, without you even realizing it.
Makes sense. And then the first really strange thing happens. Jude hears her nickname called out from over by the bay in her grandfather's voice, clear as day.
In her grandfather's voice.
Yeah, and remember, her grandfather's been dead for 8 years at this point.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, just picture that. You're there trying to relax, doing a crossword puzzle, and all of a sudden you hear that. She says she dropped her soda can. It just clattered to the floor. And then it happened again. The voice, only this time closer. Like it was moving towards her, crawling through the mud, is how she describes it. And you can really feel that primal fear she has of the glades coming through, like there's something hidden out there just below the surface of all that beauty. What would you think if you heard that? Like, what would be your first thought?
Oh, man. I'd be freaked out, that's for sure. But I can understand wanting to find a logical explanation, right? Yeah. That's exactly what she does. She grabs her phone, starts recording, trying to tell herself it's just the wind or the rain messing with her. But when she listens back, it's not the wind, it's not the rain, it's her grandfather's voice, clear as day, saying, "Judy." But this time it's mixed with this deep, sloshing hiss. I think she described it as like a voice dredged from the swamp. That's vivid,
It's so specific. And then, even inside the RV, things start to get weird. She finds her grandfather's wishing hook, the one she put on the dashboard. It's moved. Somehow it's snagged in the carpet.
No way.
Yeah. It's a small detail, but it's like this loss of control, right? Something's happening in her space, her safe place, and it doesn't make sense. Have you ever had that, like an object just moving on its own?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely misplaced things.
I'm talking about like actually move.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No. That's creepy.
Right. And it makes her think back to what the park ranger said when she checked in. He just casually mentions, flamingos got memories, don't camp too close to the bay. At the time, she probably just thought he was being, folksy or whatever. But now, it sounds a lot more ominous. Like the place itself is holding on to something, maybe something dark.
Yeah.
You see that a lot in folklore, right?
Yeah.
Places having memories.
Yeah, you see that a lot. Haunted places, places where something happened and it just kind of lingers.
Right. And then she finds this note on the park map about an abandoned ranger outpost from '88. It just says, lost calls. And then in handwriting, someone's added, they don't let go.
Chilling.
Right. And it makes you wonder, what were those lost calls about?
Yeah, lost calls, and they don't let go. What does that even mean?
Exactly. As night falls, things get even worse. The rain keeps coming down, and she's trying to find some comfort in her grandfather's old wind-up radio, just tuning it to the static between stations, But even that's not safe. The static starts to warp, and then she hears a voice saying, "You're not leaving." And then she hears this thumping outside the RV, like something heavy and wet being dragged through the mud.
Oh, God.
Yeah, can you imagine being trapped in there with that going on?
Yeah.
So naturally, she tries to get out of there. But her RV, Marsh, it won't start.
What?
The lights flicker and die, even though she just filled up the tank that morning. And then her phone, it just starts losing signal. And battery, like rapidly, down to 4% in no time.
Oh, no. Classic horror movie stuff.
Yeah, but she's out in the middle of nowhere, right? No way to call for help. And then the motion sensor light outside comes on, and she sees it, a figure. She describes it as low and scaly, crouched by the bay, with these eyes glinting like wet amber, staring right at the RV.
A scaly figure in the Everglades.
I know, right? And that's the first time we actually get a visual, right? That something's out there, and it's not just a normal animal.
But the description's vague, which I think makes it even scarier. What do you picture when you hear low and scaly?
I don't know. Something not from around here, that's for sure.
Out of place, yeah. So she's desperate, grabs the CB radio, tries to call her sister Leela back in Miami. Now, CB radios, before everyone had cell phones, they were a lifeline out in remote areas, right?
Yeah, truckers, boaters, anyone out of range of normal signals.
Right. But the radio cuts out, static. She's completely isolated. And then the knocking starts. 2 slow thumps. Thump, thump. Like that.
Oh. Yeah. And she instantly knows what it is. It was her grandfather's signal when he was out fishing, letting her know he was back. But he's been gone for years, right?
Oh my God. That's so creepy. Like taking something familiar, something comforting, and twisting it into something terrifying.
Totally. And then she sees a shape out by the bay, hulked in the rain, further confirming that something's out there. And then inside the RV, she finds her nickname, Judy Y, scratched into the underside of the table.
It's scratched into the table.
Yeah, and it's fresh.
Yeah.
Wet, slimy, like it was just done. What could have done that? And why her name?
That's so personal, right? Like it knows her.
It is. And then the knocking turns into scratching, like claws raking along the sides of Marsh. And that's when Jude decides enough is enough. She's not just going to sit there and wait. She grabs a flashlight, a tire iron, and her grandfather's fishing hook. Like maybe it'll offer some protection, And she goes outside into the storm, shouting, "I'm not yours," at the top of her lungs. I mean, do you expect her to do that?
I don't know. It's brave, that's for sure. Or maybe just, desperate.
Yeah, a cornered animal. And it's quiet for a minute. The scratching stops. She goes out there into the thick, humid air. Whatever it was, it's gone. But there are these huge claw marks leading into the bay. And she sees something, long and dark, slipping under the water. But when she goes back inside, the motion light feed starts playing on its own. And she hears that voice again, that unnatural, sludgy voice, saying, "You brought me back." What do you think that means?
Brought it back? I don't know. It's like it's blaming her somehow. Like her being there triggered something.
Like she woke it up, yeah.
And it makes you think about her grandfather's warnings, right?
Yeah.
And the hook. It's all connected somehow.
Yeah, and then she remembers these stories her grandfather used to tell her about flamingo, about fishermen who went missing out there after hearing their names called out in the mangroves. And it wasn't just random disappearances, it was specifically people who heard their names.
Just like Jude.
Exactly. Like it's a local legend, right? Something that's been happening at Flamingo for a long time. And then the attack on the RV starts up again. But this time it's worse. It's slamming into the RV so hard the metal buckles. Claws raking across the roof. This awful hissing cutting through the sound of the storm. And then she catches her reflection in her grandfather's fishing hook. But she sees something coiled behind her, inside the RV. Like it's gotten in somehow. Can you imagine how she must have felt?
To think that something's in there with you, but you can't see it, that's the worst kind of fear, right?
Totally. And then the radio crackles to life. It wasn't even powered on, but suddenly it's working. A voice whispers, "You'll never dry out." She just smashes it.
Understandable.
Right. And then as dawn breaks, the rain stops. And marsh starts right up. Like nothing was wrong. It's like as soon as the sun comes up, whatever was holding her there, it let go. But it leaves its mark. Back home in Miami, she finds swamp muck inside the RV, huge webbed claw prints around her bunk. And there's a recording on her phone. She didn't even know she made it. It's dark. You can hear her talking to herself, trying to figure out what's going on. And there's this faint hissing sound. And then a voice whispers, "Judy again."
Evidence, right. It's not just in her head.
Yeah, it's physical proof that something was there.
Yeah.
And then she finds these scars on her arms, faint but slimy, like something unnatural touched her.
That's just not right.
And she starts researching flamingo, digging into its history, finds out about a camper who disappeared back in '88, the same year as that abandoned ranger outpost. And then there are these strange carvings in the mangrove roots. And she hears whispers from locals about crawlers in the bay. Just rumors, but still.
Spooky rumors.
Yeah. And her sister, Leela, she confirms that her CD radio also went out that night. So it's not just Jude's imagination.
It's all starting to add up, right? Like a pattern.
And it's not over. She's back home, but it's still with her. Her grandfather's fishing hook, it appears wet sometimes, even though there's no humidity.
Yeah.
And the tire iron she used to defend herself, it's got these notches in it that weren't there before.
Just notches.
Yeah, like something was biting it. And she can't stand humid air anymore. It triggers that fear, that feeling of being trapped in the glades. And then the final straw. She finds a mangrove root under her front door, soaked with water. And carved into it is her name, Judy Y.
Oh, come on. That's not possible.
Right. And her sister Leela, she sees it and freaks out, turns pale, says something about having a bad experience near Flamingo when she was younger, too. Like it's a shared thing, this, whatever it is.
A family curse, almost.
Yeah. And most recently, Jude says she still hears it. The sound of Judy being whispered in the rain through the walls of her house.
It followed her home.
It did. So, what do we make of all this?
I don't know. It's a lot to process. What do you think? What do you think is going on here?
Well, I think it really makes you think about the power of the human mind, right? When you're under extreme stress, isolated like that, your mind can play tricks on you.
Right, especially with the grief and those strong memories of her grandfather's voice. Maybe that somehow manifested, into these auditory hallucinations.
Yeah, maybe. But then there's all the physical evidence, the claw marks, the scratches, the hook moving. That's not just in her head.
No, you're right. That pushes it beyond just a psychological explanation, doesn't it?
It does. And if you think about it in the context of folklore, the Everglades are kind of a perfect breeding ground for those kinds of stories. Mm-hmm. People go missing, there are strange creatures lurking in the shadows, and those whispers about crawlers and warnings about the bay. Maybe there's something to those local legends.
Yeah, like Jude tapped into something that was already there, something ancient, maybe dormant. And her presence, her connection to the Glades through her grandfather somehow woke it up.
It makes you think, doesn't it? about the power of place, how certain environments can bring up such strong emotions, memories,
Yeah.
and maybe even hold echoes of things that happened there.
Definitely. And at the end of the day, it comes down to this very basic human fear, the fear of the unknown, of things we can't explain, things that exist just outside of what we understand.
That's what makes this story so unsettling, so compelling. So to all of you listening, we leave you with this question. What do you believe?
Could some places truly hold on to the past, not just in our memories, but in some real physical way?
Are there things out there, forces, entities, that once they have you, they simply don't let go?